The Rittner School District's proud history began in a one-room log cabin built in 1846 for a small community of settlers. Buck School was located near the intersection of Woodson and Lackland Roads. They hired Professor Thomas W. Goldie, a recent immigrant from England, to be the school's first teacher. His salary was just $20 a month. At the time Buck School was founded, Louisiana Purchase was made only 43 years before, and Missouri had only been a state for 25 years. Both Woodson and St. Charles Rock Roads were still little more than Indian trails which Daniel Boone had followed from Kentucky at the beginning of the 19th century. (1846) marked the beginning of the Mexican-American War. In 1857, all eyes were on St. Louis when the Supreme Court handed down its historic Dred Scott decision in the old courthouse. They ruled that the federal government had no power to regulate slavery, and for Dred Scott, this decision meant that living in a free state did not make him a free man. In 1867, 2 years after the Civil War ended, the rural district of Rittner was officially formed by joining Buck School with a temporary school for African American children. The name was chosen in honor of J.S. Rittner, a prominent landowner who passed away earlier that year. By 1879, there were 169 children attending the Rittner School District, including 29 African American students. A fire destroyed Buck School in 1882, and the school district built a new 4-room brick house on that same site.
Come and make eyes with me under the Ann Hauser bush.
In 1891, James Naismith invented the game of basketball, Thomas Edison demonstrated his early motion picture device, and the zipper was patented. In St. Louis, the Anheuser-Busch Company was making a name for itself throughout the world. In 1893, 25 students and their teacher, Marion Humphreys, posed for the earliest known picture of a Rittner school. In the background, the shortened spelling of Rittner is displayed prominently on a sign over the school door. This spelling was preferred by the painter of the sign, former board member Oscar P. Baldwin. In 1903, a bond issue was approved to build a new schoolhouse, and a school holiday was granted in honor of the dedication of the World's Fair in Forest Park. In 1904, St. Louis hosted the Summer Olympic Games. In 1905, Home Heights School was built, and by the following year, the district began facing serious financial problems for the first time in its history. At that time, the district included 3 schools: Rittner School, Home Heights School, and the School for African American Children. Overcrowding made the need for additional schools clear, but building them would not be an option financially until 1907 with the passage of a much-needed bond issue. In the tight-knit Rittner community, taxpayers requested a raise in their taxes to help the district meet expenses beyond what the bond issue provided for the upkeep and construction of Lackland and Elmwood schools respectively, as well as renovations for Rittner and Home Heights schools in 1907. In 1911, songs like Alexander's Ragtime Band and Texas Tommy Swing rose in popularity and planted the seeds of the jazz era. Chevrolet entered the market to compete with Ford, and the electric self-starter eliminated the need to crank the engine to drive a car. That year, the board hired Perry S. Allen, principal of Maplewood High School, as the district's first official superintendent. In 1913, Lackland Avenue School became the first high school for African American pupils in St. Louis County. During those years, the Rittner community joined the nation in mourning the loss of thousands of Americans who died for their country in the First World War. Toward the end of World War I came the beginning of an influenza epidemic, which made nearly 1 billion people ill throughout Europe and the United States, killing 20 million. Rittner canceled classes for 3 months due to the epidemic, which also took the lives of Rittner students, including the only member of the graduating class of 1919. In 1919, with the war and the influenza epidemic over, new hope took root across the U.S., and a freshly optimistic Rittner community gained new interest in high school athletics. A year later, the board hired Superintendent Arthur A. Hake, who announced the formation of a rifle club and basketball team in his first year. Hake would lead the district through an era of growth and progress over the next 36 years. Between 1916 and 1920, enrollment in the district increased by 20%. Rittner High School marked its first graduating class on May 17, 1918, when F. M. Bender, president of the Board of Education, presented diplomas to 4 graduates. In 1920, about 400 students of all grade levels were enrolled in Rittner School, with 336 in the 8 elementary rooms and 62 in the 4 high school rooms. In 1921, Hake proposed and passed a $65,000 bond issue to build the new high school, the first of 15 bond issues he would propose and pass during his 36 years in Rittner. Hake ultimately oversaw the opening of 12 schools and many more school additions and renovations. Since then, some of these schools have been repurposed, sold, or demolished. However, most, including Marion, Marvin, Booter, Iveland, and Kratz Elementary Schools, Rittner Middle School, the old Rittner High School, Hake Middle School, and the current Rittner High School still remain. In 1923, the district employed 34 teachers. That same year, Rittner High School students began publication of the Pepper Box, the high school newspaper. The Rittner High School yearbook, the Malarius, was first published by the senior class in 1929. In 1930, St. Louis was the 7th largest city in the country. The decade's chart-topping artists included Glenn Miller, Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire, and Billie Holiday. The Great Depression made life difficult for Americans, and World War II loomed on the horizon. By 1933, the Great Depression had caused 200,000 teachers to lose their jobs across the U.S. Money was tight in Rittner, and salaries of all professional staff were reduced. During these tough times, many parents requested that the district allow their children to continue in school even though they were unable to pay the tuition. The district continued to accept all students despite financial difficulties. The Handy House is truly a beloved segment of Rittner's illustrious history and is remembered fondly by thousands of Rittner graduates. Opened across the street from the original Rittner High School, now Rittner Middle School, in 1938, thousands of students enjoyed a burger and dancing for 30 years until it closed in 1968. Rittner continued to grow and prosper despite the challenges of the Great Depression and World War II. Rittner High School, in its present location, opened in 1950. One dream that fell by the wayside after the war was a proposal to build an auditorium at the high school to honor the sacrifices of members of the military from Rittner during both World Wars. Rising costs and competing priorities would postpone this dream for half a century until a new auditorium was finally opened in 2012. In 1953, the Wagon Wheel football game began when the Kiwanis clubs of Rittner and Normandy proposed a football game to be played on Thanksgiving Day. At that time, there were only 10 football-playing schools in St. Louis County. In later years, Rittner and Normandy continued to play the game in the regular season until the rivalry was ended in the mid-2000s. Superintendent Hake lived to see the opening of Hake Junior High in 1955. He attended his last board meeting on February 14, 1956, and died on March 12th. The funeral was held in the junior high named in his honor. Hake led the district through some of the most difficult years in American history. he watched the district grow from 731 students in 3 schools to about 9,000 students in 15 buildings. The year he started, there were just 4 high school graduates. The year he passed away, 306 Rittner students earned their diplomas. In 1956, Wendell L. Evans succeeded Hake as superintendent. In 1957, Russia launched Sputnik 1, the first Earth-orbiting satellite. Leave It to Beaver premiered on CBS, and West Side Story debuted on Broadway. The civil rights movement was gaining traction in America, and Chuck Berry was on the verge of his hit song, Johnny Be Good. The 1950s were a time of tremendous athletic success in the district. From 1948 until 1961, the Rittner wrestling team won 14 consecutive state championships. The 1957 baseball team brought home the school's first state baseball championship. Weiland Elementary opened in 1958. It was named in honor of Edward L. Weiland, then in his 27th year as a member of the Board of Education. In the fall of 1958, Rittner began the process of desegregating the district. Elmwood School remained all black, and African American families living anywhere in the district were given the option to send their children to Elmwood if they preferred. In 1960, a new field house was built at Rittner High School and named in honor of the former high school principal, O.W. Costello, who retired the previous year. In January of 1967, a tornado damaged Kratt School. That same year, Rittner brought home its 3rd state baseball championship, led by future Major League Baseball player Jerry Royce. In 1969, James A. Painter replaced Evans as superintendent, followed by J.L. Moody in 1974. In 1976, enrollment in the district was on a steady decline. Following the baby boomer generation, the total enrollment was 9,744 that year, 4,000 less than it had been during the district's peak period a decade earlier. Because of this decline, the district chose to lease Midland School to the Special School District and sell 2 other buildings. Home Heights, Midland, and New Overland Elementary Schools were closed. In 1981, DeHart and Booter schools were closed due to the continuing decrease in enrollment. In 1983, Sally K. Ride became the first U.S. female astronaut in space, and the Police held the #1 song in America with Every Breath You Take, followed by Michael Jackson with Billie Jean. By this point, enrollment in Rittner had stabilized, and in 1984, John W. DeArmond became the superintendent. Booter Elementary reopened in 1986. In 1988, for the first time since 1920, all bonds were paid off and the district was debt-free. During that 68-year period, over $14 million in bonds had been passed. The condition of the buildings was deteriorating quickly, though, and despite the need for renovations, bond issues for facility improvements fell short in 1988 and 1989. Because of building safety concerns, the district was prepared to take drastic measures to survive if they could not pass a bond issue. They were prepared to close Marvin, Marion, and Rittner Middle. Finally, however, the $30 million bond issue passed overwhelmingly in 1990 after a heavy campaign to inform the public of what was at stake. Since 1990, voters have overwhelmingly approved millions in bond issue renovations to dramatically restore all district facilities, including air conditioning, new classrooms, updated technology infrastructures, classroom internet connections, security and safety improvements, and additional multimedia workstations and labs. Dr. Paul Dorr was named superintendent in 1995. In 2001, the 9/11 terrorist attacks united Americans in patriotism and mourning. Rittner began the new century with a new set of challenges. The No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 brought about a new level of standards and accountability for all schools in the United States. Accreditation and test scores became the focal point for measuring school and student success. During the 2005-06 school year, the Rittner Board of Education decided to revisit the idea of building an auditorium and complementary fine arts facilities at the high school. In 2006, Cheryl Compton became the superintendent, and in 2007, a bond issue was proposed for $32 million. The bond issue included the construction of a permanent school for early childhood, but the vote fell short of the required 4/7 majority. Instead of giving up, the board resubmitted a modified $50 million proposal for the November 4th, 2008 ballot. This proposal also included funding for new playgrounds for all elementary schools and 2 new elementary school libraries. The bond issue passed, receiving an all-time high of 12,267 favorable votes. By fall of 2013, all bond issue projects were completed. Every school underwent extensive safety and security upgrades, and Iveland and Marion elementary schools each received a new library. The passage of the 2008 bond issue took Rittner's commitment to excellence in education and safety to a whole new level. In 2012, Chris Kilbride replaced Compton as superintendent. Under his leadership, the district continues to make strides and ensure a quality education for every student every day. Today, Rittner embraces the exciting challenges of the future. We have grown from that one-room cabin in 1846 into 10 schools, an early childhood center, and a large adult education program. More than 800 professional, caring employees, plus active district parents and a highly supportive community work together to educate a culturally, socially, and economically diverse student population of more than 6,100 children and young adults. This year, we are excited to celebrate our 150th year of teaching Rittner students and preparing them for the world. We could never have reached this milestone without the incredible support we receive from our community. Thank you for all you continue to do to ensure a bright future for generations of Rittner graduates.
But tell me